Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a job, but that's because I've been lucky enough to live in Silicon Valley for a while and work for a small startup down the street here that did quite well. So I'm unemployed by choice. My question is, would you please raise my taxes? I would like very much to have the country to continue to invest in things like Pell Grants and infrastructure and job training programs that made it possible for me to get to where I am. And it kills me to see Congress not supporting the expiration of the tax cuts that have been benefiting so many of us for so long. I think that needs to change, and I hope that you'll stay strong in doing that.
Well, I appreciate it. What was the startup, by the way? You want to give me a little hint?
It's a search engine.
Worked out pretty well, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, let me just talk about taxes for a second. I've made this point before, but I want to reiterate this. So often the tax debate gets framed as class warfare. And look, as I said at the outset, America's success is premised on individuals, entrepreneurs having a great idea, going out there and pursuing their dreams and making a whole lot of money in the process. And that's great. That's part of what makes America so successful. But as you just pointed out, we're successful because somebody invested in our education, somebody built schools, somebody created incredible universities. I went to school on scholarship. Michelle, her dad was what's called a stationary engineer at the Water Reclamation District. Never owned his own home, but he always paid his bills, had multiple sclerosis, struggled to get to work every day, but never missed a day on the job, never went to college, but he was able to send his daughter to Princeton and on to Harvard Law School. We benefited from somebody somewhere making an investment in us. And I don't care who you are, that's true of all of us. Hey, look at this room. I mean, look at the diversity of the people here. A lot of us are, parents came from someplace else or grandparents came from someplace else. They benefited from a public school system or an incredible university network or the infrastructure that allows us to move products and services around the globe, or the scientific research that, Silicon Valley is built on, and research that no individual company would have made on their own, because you couldn't necessarily capture the value of the nascent internet. So the question becomes, if we're going to make those investments, how do we pay for it? Now, the income of folks at the top has gone up exponentially over the last couple of decades, whereas the incomes and wages of the middle class have flatlined over the last 15 years. So, this young lady's mom, who's been working in food services, she doesn't have a lot of room to spare. Those of us who've been fortunate, we do. And we're not talking about going to punitive rates that would somehow inhibit you from wanting to be part of a startup or work hard to be successful. We're talking about going back to the rates that existed as recently as in the 90s, when, as I recall, Silicon Valley was doing pretty good. And well-to-do people were doing pretty well. And it turns out, in fact, during that period, the rich got richer. The middle class expanded. People rose out of poverty because everybody was doing well. So this is not an issue of do we somehow try to punish those who've done well. That's the last thing we want to do. It's a question of how can we afford to continue to make the investments that are going to propel America forward. If we don't improve our education system, for example, we will all fall behind. We will all fall behind. That's just that's a fact. And the truth is that on every indicator, from college graduation rates to math and science scores, we are slipping behind other developed countries. And that's going to have an impact in terms of if you're a startup, are you going to be able to find enough engineers? It's going to have an impact in terms of is the infrastructure here good enough that you can move products to market? It's going to have an impact on your ability to recruit top talent from around the world. And so, we all have an investment in improving our education system. Now, money is not going to solve the entire problem. That's why we've initiated reforms like Race to the Top that says we're going to have higher standards for everybody. We're going to not just have kids taught to the test, but we're going to make sure that we empower teachers, but we're also going to hold them accountable and improve how we train our principals and our teachers. So we're willing to make a whole bunch of reforms, but at some point, money makes a difference. If we don't have enough science teachers in the classroom, we're going to have problems. Somebody's got to pay for it. And right now, we've got the lowest tax rates we've had since the 1950s. And some of the Republican proposals would take it back as a percentage of GDP back to where we were back in the 1920s. Well, you can't have a modern industrial economy like that. So, so I appreciate your sentiment. I appreciate the fact that you recognize we're in this thing together. We're not on our own. And those of us who've been successful, we've always got to remember that.
I know a lot of people in that same situation, and every one of them has said to me that they would support an increase in their taxes. So, please.
Well, we're going to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Next question was